Hey family, thank you for joining us for this third installment of this great series entitled Extreme Marriage Makeover. If you joined us for the first two videos, you know that in the first video we talked about the act of forgiveness and how important that is. In the second video we talked about mastering the art of communication. If you haven't seen those videos, you definitely want to check those videos out. Now, going through the act of forgiveness and mastering the art of communication, those two things help to develop what we feel is this next important component: trust and building trust. It is very important that in a marriage, a husband and wife trust each other. I was in a seminar once and they made us all stand up and they said, okay, now one person stand in front of the other, and when we tell you to, just fall back and allow the other person to catch you. Now, so many people were apprehensive. I even tried it with my wife, and after several times, it took several times for her to actually fall back. What the person was saying is that some is a parallel to how we trust each other in marriage. Now, falling back is a small thing compared to what some may deal in their marriage and some of the things that have happened to make that trust disappear or diminish that level of trust. But I'm telling you that in order for you to experience the marriage that God has for you, in order for you to experience an extreme marriage makeover, you must be able to trust your spouse. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things that you can do to build or rebuild trust if it has been taken away for some reason or another. We want to talk about some things very quickly that you can do to help rebuild that trust. All right? First thing, seems like a simple one, but just ask. Ask your spouse. We were talking about communication in the second video. Now that you've begun to start mastering that art of communication, come out and ask your spouse. Say, listen, what are some of the things that I have done or that I do that diminish the level of trust in our relationship? Listen intently to what that person says, and then be intentional about working on those things and work on them in their presence. Let your spouse see that you are diligently working towards fixing those areas that you have discussed. Second thing, make small promises and follow through on those promises. Let me give you an example. Honey, I'll be home by 8 o'clock. Not a huge promise, but being able to make promises like those and keep them helps to develop trust. Doing that consistently, which is our third thing, doing that consistently is definitely a way to build trust. You don't want to make small promises, keep them for a month, break them for a month, keep them for a month. You don't want to go on and off. You want to be consistent. Consistency helps to build and to rebuild trust in a relationship. The next thing that I think is important is that you set boundaries. Now, what does setting boundaries do? Setting boundaries puts parameters around certain situations and certain scenarios. It allows you to know how far you can go and how far you can't go. Why is that important in trust? Because once you've asked your spouse what are the things that you should work on to rebuild trust, once you start making these promises and following through on them and you're being consistent, you want to make sure that you're not crossing the line or doing anything that will take you back to the beginning and having to start over. So you want to set boundaries. This is something that you and your spouse would have to sit down and talk about and come together on. And so that you can work together towards building this trust. Both of you know what the parameters are, and you know how to go about meeting those and keeping within those boundaries. Now, there may be some things that are outside of the scope of what you and your spouse can handle on your own. In these scenarios, I strongly suggest that you enlist the help of a professional. Sometimes we can't go at it alone. Sometimes we need a third party to kind of give us some perspective and help us to see, look outside of the situation, look at the big picture, so to speak. Don't be afraid to do that if you need to help rebuild trust and to help give you tools and tips to work towards rebuilding that trust. Trust is very important, my friends. And as we are working through building and we're going towards this extreme marriage makeover, I want you to be able to trust your spouse. In closing, I want to leave you with a quote from George MacDonald. George MacDonald says that to be trusted is a greater compliment than to be loved. Now that's serious. Family, I want you to start beginning the process of rebuilding or building trust in your relationship. That is one area that will help us achieve the goal of having an extreme marriage makeover. Until next time, God bless.